He walked out of prison after 27 years, not with a heart full of revenge, but with a plan to unite a nation. Can you imagine that? Spending nearly 3 decades locked away, then turning to your jailers and saying, "Let's build a new country, together." This isn't a movie plot. This is the incredible, real-life story of Nelson Mandela. So, who was this man before he became a global icon? Well, for starters, his name wasn't even Nelson. He was born Rolihlahla Mandela. In his language, Xhosa. Rolihlahla Chikili means pulling the branch of a tree, but it's more commonly translated as troublemaker. And let's just say, he definitely lived up to that name. But in the best way possible. His teacher gave him the English name Nelson on his first day of school, probably because Rolihlahla was a bit of a tongue twister. Growing up in a small village, young Nelson was a bit of a country boy. He herded cattle, learned the traditions of his Thembu people, and listened to the elders tell stories of a time before white settlers arrived. These stories planted a seed in his mind, the seed of justice and freedom. He went on to study law, and you can just imagine him in court, charming and sharp as a tack. Along with his friend Oliver Tambo, he opened South Africa's very first black-owned law firm. Their office was constantly flooded with people who had been wronged by the brutal system of apartheid, a system that separated people by race and treated non-white citizens as second class in their own land. Seeing this injustice day in and day out, Mandela realized that legal battles weren't enough. The government was becoming more and more oppressive. So, the troublemaker decided it was time to, well, make some trouble for the unjust system. He joined the African National Congress, or ANC, and became a leading voice in the fight against apartheid. He organized protests, strikes, and boycotts. He was a master strategist, always thinking 10 steps ahead. But as the government responded with increasing violence, Mandela and the ANC felt they had no choice but to take a more radical stance. This was a decision that would change his life, and the course of South African history, forever. This path led to his arrest. At his trial, facing the possibility of the death penalty, Mandela gave a speech that echoed around the world. He stood tall and said, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live, together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The court sentenced him to life in prison. He was sent to the notorious Robben Island, a harsh, windswept rock in the middle of the ocean. For 27 years, this was his world, a tiny cell, hard labor in a limestone quarry, and the constant, crushing reality of his confinement. The dust from the quarry permanently damaged his eyes. He was allowed 1 visitor and 1 letter every 6 months. Think about that. 1 letter. You'd have to plan what you wanted to say for half a year. But here's where the story takes an unbelievable turn. Prison didn't break him. Forgave. He turned his prison into a university. He learned the language of his oppressors, Afrikaans, so he could understand them, reason with them, and maybe even change their hearts. He would tell his fellow prisoners, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. He organized secret classes, debated politics, and kept the spirit of the struggle alive, all from within those 4 walls. He even managed to find moments of humor, playfully negotiating with guards for small dignities, proving that you can imprison a man, but you can't imprison his spirit. While Mandela was in prison, his legend grew. He became the world's most famous political prisoner, a symbol of the global fight against injustice. The Free Nelson Mandela movement became a rallying cry for an entire generation. Finally, after 27 long years, the pressure was too much for the apartheid regime to bear. On February 11, 1990, the world watched as a 71-year-old Nelson Mandela walked out of prison, hand in hand with his wife Winnie, his fist raised in a symbol of victory. Now, this is the part that gives me goosebumps every time. What would you do if you were freed after being unjustly imprisoned for 27 years? Most of us would probably feel an overwhelming desire for revenge. But not Mandela. He knew that revenge would only lead to a cycle of more violence and pain. His goal wasn't to punish his enemies. It was to build a new rainbow nation, where every color, every creed could live together in peace. He began negotiating with the very government that had locked him away. It was an incredibly delicate dance. He had to convince his own supporters, who were hungry for justice, to embrace peace, while also convincing the white minority that they had a safe and equal future in this new South Africa. He used his incredible charm and wisdom to win over even his staunchest opponents. There is a famous story of him inviting his former jailer to his presidential inauguration as a VIP guest. That's not just forgiveness. That's a masterclass in humanity. In 1994, South Africa held its first ever democratic election where every citizen, regardless of race, could vote. And guess who they chose as their first president? The troublemaker from that small village, the lawyer who fought for the downtrodden, the prisoner who became a peacemaker, Nelson Mandela. As president, one of his most brilliant moves was using the 1995 Rugby World Cup to unite the nation. Rugby was a sport beloved by the white Afrikaner population but despised by black South Africans as a symbol of oppression. Mandela not only showed up to the final match but did so wearing the jersey of the national team. When he walked onto that field and the crowd, mostly white, started chanting, "Nelson, Nelson, Nelson." It was a moment of pure magic. It was a sign that the Rainbow Nation was not just a dream, but a possibility. He showed the world that a sport, a simple game, could heal a nation's wounds. After one term as president, he stepped down, showing that true leadership is not about clinging to power, but knowing when to pass the torch. He spent the rest of his life as a global statesman, fighting for peace and human rights around the world. The life of Nelson Mandela teaches us something incredibly profound. It teaches us that our past does not have to define our future. It shows us that true strength isn't found in how hard you can hit, but in how much you can forgive. He endured 27 years of hardship, yet emerged with a spirit of reconciliation that changed the world. He proved that one person, armed with an unbreakable will and a vision for a better world, can truly make a difference. His legacy is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope, forgiveness, and a commitment to our shared humanity can light the way forward. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a little motivation. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories of incredible people who changed the world. Now, for my question to you, and I'll open this in the comments below. What is one small act of forgiveness or understanding you can practice in your own life this week? Let's discuss. See you in the next video.